Baruch Hashem, chapter 3 of the book of Bamidbar. Let's start with the chapter 3, Pasuk Aleph. Oh, hold on one second. Okay. Did you guys hear that? Because I just said the code. Did you hear that? Deborah, was it on the okay, you know what, I'll stop. You couldn't hear the code? Okay, good. All right, so up to chapter 3, Pasuk Aleph. The Elah told us Aaron and Moshe, B'yom Diber Hashem at Moshe Bar Sinai. This is the lineage of Aaron and Moses. Hello there, Baruch Hashem. I didn't hear any news. I wrote to Steve. He said she's still in. It's been over 9 hours. They're saying. No, I have, but it's a very big surgery. I don't know what the surgery is called. Yeah. Okay, this is Barbara. This is our friend Barbara. We'll dedicate our Torah study today to Refuah Shlema for Shoshana, and may she have Refuah Shlema. So here, this is the lineage of Aaron and Moshe on the day God spoke to Moshe on Mount Sinai. Chapter 3, here, there's a Chumash there, Barbara. Here, you got these guys. What page are we on, Jonathan? 739. So let me read the Rashi. This is a classic Rashi. This is the lineage of Aaron and Moses. So, and then it goes on to give the lineage of Aaron. And it doesn't give the lineage of Moses. You follow the problem? It says, Elah told us Aaron and Moshe. This is the lineage of Aaron and Moses on the day God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai. And then it goes on to give the lineage only of Moses, only of Aaron and not Moses. By the way, I want to say, I really feel like we're in messianic times. You want to know why? I just read as I was coming over here that Bibi Netanyahu met with the head of UAE, Arabs. The Jews and the Arabs met with nobody else in the room. The two heads. Has that ever happened before? Like, it's just like miraculous. And like, so as long the more the anti-Semitism grows, the reason, you know why the anti-Semitism is so strong now? Because the Jews are getting stronger and stronger, and Israel is getting stronger, and they recognize that Israel's here to stay. And so therefore they're ramping up the hate. That's why. If we were weak, they wouldn't hate us as much. They wouldn't present the problem. It's because they're worried about us, because they know that we're not going anywhere. So I mean, I never thought, like, the more they hate, the more we grow stronger. So we should just recognize that. So this is the lineage of Aaron and Moses on the day God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai. So Rashi says, "Ve'eno mazkir el bnei Aaron." It only mentions the children of Aaron. So why is that? Yet they're called the children of Moshe. Here's the teaching. This is one of my favorites. Lafisha limden Torah. So they're called, it only mentions the lineage of Aaron, even though it says these are the children of Moshe and Aaron. So the answer is because Moshe taught them Torah, they're called his children. This teaches us that whoever teaches the son of his friend Torah, his friend's son Torah, the verse looks at him as though he gave birth to him, as though he's their father. This is why they say to people who have no children, they say, give support Torah study, because those students will be your children. And that's the concept here, that if you have no children, that Moshe Rabbeinu's own children were Aaron's children. What about Moshe's children? What happened to them? So the Talmud tells us that they became idolaters. So isn't that ironic that the Torah tells us there will never be another human being as great as Moshe Rabbeinu. And yet, clearly, he wasn't the best father in the world because his children didn't run off the derech. So, what do we say about that? I don't know what to say about that. But the Talmud tells us that they became idolaters. Then in the end, Joshua brought them back. Joshua taught them, had them repent. But when Moshe died, they were off the path. Yeah. So anyway, so on the day these are the lineage of Aaron and Moses on the day that God spoke to Moshe at Mount Sinai. Why does it say that? So mean to say that Rashi says because he taught them everything that he learned from God on Mount Sinai, everything that he learned from the mouth of God. Again, it's interesting. It doesn't say that Moshe taught his own children. You ever hear like the shoemaker's children go barefoot? You ever hear that expression, Ezra? What it means is like the person can do everything to others, but to his own household, he maybe can't do it. They saw a different side of him. The Torah doesn't even, the Torah actually doesn't even seem to indicate that Moshe spent a lot of time with them. The Torah says that Moshe left them when he went to Egypt. And then even when they came to Sinai and met him, when he came down he was on Sinai for 3 months straight. He was on Sinai from Shavuot through Yom Kippur, basically. And then after Yom Kippur, he came down to Yom Kippur. Then it says that his horns were glowing and he stayed away from the camp. He had his own tent. So he was never really living with them as their father. So their mother was Tzipporah, and she was a Midianite. And we know she was a courageous woman because she was the one who circumcised the children. She circumcised their son when they were on the road back to Egypt, and Moshe was swallowed by the angel. He almost died, but she didn't teach them the Torah. She didn't. So yeah, they must have lived with their mother, but it's not so simple, as they say. Not so pasha. Not so pasha. Okay. Aaron. These are the children. Also, Aaron's sons were deeply. Also, Aaron's sons wasn't a smooth ride. Two of his sons died because they deviated. Hello, Dan. They deviated from what they were supposed to be doing. They didn't follow the direction. So the two leaders of Am Yisrael in the wilderness had trouble with their kids. Yeah, we were saying, Dan, that Moshe's kids became idolaters. The Talmud says it here. No, well, it's not so far from the Pshat because it says here that this is the lineage, chapter 3, verse 1. It says this is the lineage of Aaron and Moses on the day God spoke to them. And it only says the lineage of Aaron. And Moses' children disappear. So it's very clear they weren't part of the Velt. They weren't studying the Torah. They weren't wearing the flags like the other Jews. And that's why the Talmud is saying the text seems to indicate that there was a gap there. There was something very off with the children. Moshe left them.
Yeah, Moshe though seems not to have been the best husband and father of the
others. I was just saying that I don't want to talk about him as a husband, but as a father, it seems that there was a gap because, oh, Yossi, here's a chumash. He comes here right next to me. As a father, there was a gap because his children. Here, let me look up exactly the Talmudic text where it states that they became idolaters. Hold on. Where does it say? We're in, is that your guess? I remember where it is on the page. It's Amud Aleph, around 20 lines from the bottom, but I forget the track date and the page. Same Moshe. Um, idolaters. Okay, here we go. It's Baba Batra 110A. Here. Oh, here we go. The primary discussion, according to Gemini, and I'd have to look it up because they just make stuff up sometimes. But they say the primary discussion is in Talmud Tractate Bavatra 110A. It says there, okay, that there was a figure named, let's see, that there was, okay, that there was the grandson of Moses who became an idolater. Ironically, but they say he was not the son of Menashe, but the son of Moses. The Talmud calls him the son of Moses. Anyway, we have to look up the text exactly. Ironically, the same section of the Talmud also says, when it says that Moses' son or grandson became idolaters, you know what else it also says in the same passage? It says that the children of the grandchildren of Haman became Torah scholars, and the grandchildren of Titus became Torah scholars. So
How did Haman have any grandchildren?
his kids were killed, but not his grandkids. And it says the grandchildren of Haman studied Torah in Bnei Brak. At the time they wrote that, that was a compliment. Now I could say that maybe really truly they are Haman if they're studying Torah there. I mean, there were some, but I mean, whatever. Okay, so going back to the text, Yossi, what page are we, Jonathan? Tell Yossi. Okay, so it says that these are the names of the children of Aaron, the Kohanim Hameshuchim Asher Milei Yadam L'Chaim. These are the children of Aaron. The eldest was Nadav and Avihu, Elazar and Itamar. And then it says, Vayamas Nadav Avihu. Nadav and Avihu died of Hashem. Ba'akrivam Eish Zara. When they brought a foreign fire before God, B'midbar Sinai, Uvanimu Ayuam, and they had no children. Vayachahin Elazar v'Itamar al Pnei Aaron Aviyam. And Elazar and Itamar became the Kohanim in the presence of their father during his B'chayav, during his lifetime. So this too is problematic that also Aaron's children went off. One of the reasons why there's like 6 major reasons why Nadav and Avihu died, and one of them is highlighted by the fact that it says they had no children. So nowadays, if you have no children, it's not unusual. But the Talmud understands it that they intentionally decided not to have children. That they either they didn't get married or they intentionally decided not to have children because they didn't want to make their wives pregnant. They thought it would ruin their beauty. So this was a punishment worthy of death. Okay, so now we'll go up to the next pasuk here. Yossi, Vayidaber Hashem Moshe Lemor. Yossi, you read pasuk Vav. Hakrave. He says, okay, bring close the tribe of Levi, and they shall the Madato so, and have the tribe of Levi stand before Aaron the Kohen, and they shall serve him. Barbara's husband was a Levi, Michael. So the job of the Levites was to serve the Kohanim. This is Yossi's a Kohen. He's a direct descendant of Aaron, going back 3,500 years. The question is, okay, by the way, I'm going to ask you a question. So what the Talmud says, the Kohen comes first to make the bracha. So we sit down to make a mezuman, we call upon the Kohen. Let's say, for some reason, the sad day, Yossi's not with us. we're sad by that, but yes, he has a different obligation that day. But there's a Levi. Does a Levi come before the Israel? What? So the answer is the Levi, his prominence comes from the fact that he serves the Kohen. So if there's no Kohen, the Levi doesn't get the extra honor. So the Levi's prominence is only because he's serving. That's what it says in this verse. V'sher tuoso. That when the Kohen is there, the Levi comes second. When there's no Kohen there, when there's no Kohen there, you can give the Levi first, but you can also give the Yisrael first. You don't have to give it to the Levi first. And that's because the Levi's prominence is only from the Kohen. Is only from serving the Kohen. So you're not required to by halacha to give the Levi the first aliyah if the Kohen's not there. In fact, many places don't do that. So, and when I think, I don't remember what I did when I was the Rebbe at OF. Here we often do it that way because there's so many Leviim. We have ironically, if our minyan has 15 people, there's usually 4 or 5 Leviim there on the Shabbat. So we decided to give it to the Leviim. But you don't have to give them the first aliyah. V'sher tuoto. What is the service? What are they supposed to do? Okay. V'shamru et mishmarto. The Levite's job. So Barbara's children are Levites. So this is what you should tell them what their job is: to guard the sanctuary. Their job is to be the guards. Their job is to be.
Unfortunately, they're well trained to do it.
Yeah, there's security. There's security. That's literally what their law is. There's security. There's a debate amongst the commentaries. Were they like commandos with as weapons, or were they more like ceremonial guards? Were they more like ceremonial, like they have those guys outside Buckingham Palace who probably couldn't protect themselves even? So what are they? Are they like real security guards? Are they Marines, or are they? So it seems like they were real guards because that's their primary responsibility. If something would go wrong, they'd be responsible. So Lefisha Shmirat HaMikdash Alav. They did that also. But here Rashi says the verse talks about here their service. It doesn't. This is the primary job of the Levites. I'll read it to you. It says, "What is the service? It is they shall safeguard his charge, because guarding the sanctuary is Aaron's responsibility. What did they have to guard it from? That nobody got in who wasn't supposed to. Guard the borders. That no non-Kohen could come in. As it says, you and your sons and your father's house with you should carry this sin. And these Levites had to help him. This is their service." So basically, this was the primary service of the Levites, to be the security. And in fact, the Mishnah tells us that they had separate passageways, they had separate angles, separate duties to guard it. And also, lest you think that why does the Mikdash require security guards? So first of all, there's references in the Talmud to the temple being under attack while they're serving, enemies attacking. It's very good that they were firing, like stones and spears at them while they were eating. Second of all, while they were trying to do their service. Second of all, there's references to fights in the temple, like a king being attacked because he was trying to institute a new practice. And there's references to fights amongst the Kohanim for who got to do the service. And there's even a story of where somebody died while serving in the temple. And this story got so bad that the father of the boy who had the knife in him, said, "Wait, quickly, take him out of the temple before we become tamei." So the Talmud cites an example of somebody's. There's a story of where two people were running to do the service together, and one knocked the other one over. So it could get rough in there, and therefore we. Hello there, Noam.
I
Come on
think he
and
said
grab
to
a
take
chumash.
out the knife. That way the knife doesn't become impure.
Oh, right. He said, "Take
You'll
knife doesn't
still
become impure."
breathing, sort of.
Yeah, do you grab a chumash? You have a chumash?
And in terms of kings, Agrippa was stoned to death with a trogim.
Not Agrippa, not Agrippa. I think it was was it Agrippa? You sure it was Agrippa?
I'm not sure, but it's
I
in
thought it
Sukkah.
was Yanai. I thought it was Yanai.
And the other one is Uzziah became a leper, which is like dying.
And also but the Talmud discusses that and this is in Maseches Gittin, that a Kohen and a Navi were killed in the same day on the floor of the temple. That refers to the Kohen, I think Zechariah, his blood flowed, and that's why the temple was destroyed. That the Kohen and the prophet were killed on the same day, and his blood was boiling there for many years until Titus came in to destroy it. He saw the blood flowing, and the rabbis tried to cover up this sin. So we see there was a lot of reason why you needed, quote unquote, the Marines there in the and yeah, we're gonna start in 5 minutes, Hugh. Thank you. So there's a lot of reason why there was a need for also, Hugh, just so you know, we're not meeting tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now we go back to Pasuk Zayin, verse 7. Here, Noam, you read for us, Noam. Oh, you're eating a cookie? We'll let Yossi read. Zayin.
What page?
I don't know.
741. Okay. ושמרו את משמרתו ואת משמרת כל העדה לפני אור המועד לעבוד את עבודת המשכן.
Okay, ושמרו את משמרתו ואת משמרת כל העדה לפני אור המועד לעבוד את עבודת המשכן. And they shall guard his watch and the mishmeret of the whole entire congregation in front of the Ol Moed to serve in the Mishkan. Okay, basically fine. That Rashi just says that. And what else were they supposed to do? They had to also do the following: Vishamru at Kol Kulei Ol Moed. They had to guard all the utensils. That Mishmeret Bnei Israel avodat avodat hamishkan, and they had to guard the watch of Israel and the service of the Mishkan. Hold on one second. Okay, so they had to watch and the Mishmeret of Israel to serve in the Mishkan. Let's see what Rashi says. They were all charged with tending to the needs of the sanctuary. All of Israel had to really watch the sanctuary. But the Levites, because it says they guarded the watch of the children of Israel. So really all of Israel had to make sure that the utensils of the Mishkan were treated properly. These were like they have the crown jewels, which were stolen in France a few months ago. I think did they get them back?
Yeah.
No, I think they caught some of the people, but they never got
people, but they didn't get the jewels.
They caught some of the people. They didn't get the jewels back. No, they didn't get. They caught a couple of the guys.
They caught them.
I think they hired an Israeli firm to catch them. That's what I read.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I hope they charged a lot.
Oh yeah. So anyway, so the Levites were the messengers, were representing the Bnei Israel. Therefore, that's why the Jewish people were, how are the Levites paid? With tithes. So how did the tithes work? What's a tithe? You know what a tithe is, Yossi? No, so there's Meiser Sheni is a secondary tithe. So basically tithe means today a donation. What happened was you take your crops and then you take 1/40 of the crop or 1/50, 1/60 of the crop, and you give that to the Kohen. Then you have to take 10% of what's left and that goes to the Levite. That's called a tithe, a 10%. From that, the Levite has to give another tithe to the Kohen, but then you also have to give another tithe on top of that. If it was the third and the sixth year, you had to give a tithe to the poor. And if it was the first, second, or fourth and fifth year of the 7-year cycle, you had to bring it to Jerusalem and eat it. And that was called the Meiser Sheni. These many tithes got Korach very upset, according to the commentaries, and that became the source of that became Korach's one of his political speeches was they're taking all of our money, taxes. Nobody likes taxes today, right?
I have two problems with the story.
They didn't get the
I've-
jewels back, but they did hire the Israelis because the jewels they cut up so quickly right away, and they did it was like a crown, so they cut up right away. I mean, it's ridiculous how they stole it. I think they just like brought they brought a ladder and just
Sunday morning,
They brought a boom, electronic, just like the telephone and the electricity people have.
they watched the Revenge of the Pink Panther a few too many times. Okay, Rabbi Yossi, if you wanted to say something.
Yeah, two things I have always had a problem with this story. First of all, Korach himself was a Levite, so he's complaining about himself, and people didn't don't confuse me with the facts. And the second is in the desert they didn't grow anything; they had the man. So he was talking in theory that this will happen in the land of Israel, but not. But he couldn't bring an actual story that like he said it as if it happened, but.
They had cattle, so they would have had to give those tithes. But you're right. But so he was talking about the rules. He didn't like the rules.
Right.
All right. Let us stop here to daven mincha now. Baruch Hashem. Where are you going?
Okay.